All right, this is our next episode of True Wrestling Fans Discussions. We're going over the Dark Side of the Ring series. Johnny Canine. I'm your host, Mike.
I'm Frank. Dark Side is pretty much an understatement to this one, man. This was
This is
more
nuts.
this was more organized crime than it was wrestling, to be honest.
Yeah, seriously.
I thought this belonged on A&E's First 48 or some nonsense, and this one was absolute insanity. They start off the episode with him in WWE, WWF at the time. He was a jobber to guys like Sam Houston and Hacksaw Jim Duggan. He jobbed for the WWE from 1985 to 1987. The reason for the name, because they had asked him why Johnny Canine, he said he worked at a bar, got arrested, had an assault police charge on him. Then, as he's in the back of the paddy wagon, he sees a canine unit car pull up, and then he said, "Oh, that's going to be my name because I'm a dog."
Yeah,
as
canine,
he put it. So I actually liked it. The name kind of fit, and I liked it.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
It was catchy. So was the one that Cornette gave. So they go on to interview Tracy Edwards, which is the widow of Johnny Canine. She met him in 1993 in Hamilton, Ontario. She was an exotic dancer. That he walked into the bar, stopped, and everybody in there in the establishment stopped what they were doing. So she was mesmerized by how he caught everybody's attention of who because of who he was. Then they got the next person they interviewed was Scott D'Amore. Now Scott D'Amore is an executive vice president of Impact Wrestling. He was also a friend of Johnny Canine, and he was a lifelong wrestler as well. He used to work with him on the Independents. He wrestled him actually in a show. He recognized it because the name on the card was Canine Dog of War. So, and he actually called him new and improved because he wasn't this kind of like cruiserweight anymore. He was total muscle, totally jacked up.
Yeah,
he was different from what he remembered. He came off as scary in the ring. He said with the bulging eyes and the shaking of his head. He would tell the guys in the ring, "Hit me, I don't care, I want blood." Yeah. And the best was, if there's no blood, we're doing it again. He was nuts in the ring. Yeah. Then they talked about how he grew up in now they went to his childhood, how he grew up in an abusive home. At Christmas, his dad would get drunk, hit his mom, hit the kids, and went out with a broom, which is ridiculous. He would chase them around there. At 5 years old, he was so scared that he went under a bed with a steel frame, clutched it to where his dad couldn't get him with it. I mean, this is just sad stuff.
Yeah, no, it's terrible.
It's ridiculous. D'Amore then talks about a show that they did in Ohio where they wrestled each other, and he said when you're young, you're afraid to check your envelopes in front of the promoter. So they went outside and they got paid in cash, obviously. So they went outside into the Jeep and they're checking their money, and D'Amore's pissed. Johnny's asking him, what's going on? He goes, "Did he short you?" He said, "Yeah." Next thing you know, Canine just just goes right back into the place, has the guy up against the wall, saying, "You'll never do this to him again. I'll kill you, blah, 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 blah." Next thing you know, guy's on his knees throwing hands of cash to the guy and just whatever.
This guy said he had him hold him by his neck. He said he was like 18 inches off the ground.
18 inches off the ground, yeah. And he goes,
"Jesus Christ.
What's the matter?" He said, we're never going to get booked here again. And sure enough, they never were.
Because Canine tells his friend, he's like, "I bet you that guy will never short you again." And then his friend's like, "Yeah, but we'll also never
get booked here again."
And they weren't. Yeah.
I just thought the whole thing was.
It was just the principle. It was the principle of it. So,
exactly. So in any event, Tracy would they go back to her now, and she would say that he was always with her a comedian. He was always the nice guy.
Right. He had another side. She said that everyone was like terrified of him, but that with her, he was a different person.
Exactly. Especially when he would answer the door naked when the pizza delivery guy would show up, and the guy was like, "Yeah, that'll be like $12.50."
It's like Ric Flair. Jesus Christ.
I don't want to know, bro. When I saw this part, I'm like, "Oh,
different." There was a very different world back then, I guess. I don't know.
It's a good thing that I'm not even gonna get into it. I can't. It's just
moving along.
Megs on, please. Um, when he went to work for MCW, now they talked about they had a band that was going to perform that night. So he asked the guy, "Hey, can I get on the drums?" And they said he was pretty good, and until he got the microphone. This is where the comedian part of him comes in because now he's singing. The wrestlers are falling off their chairs laughing, and the more they're doing it, the more he's doing it. So he was having a good time with the boys. So this is, like you said, the double life that he had. So now they interview your best friend, Jim Cornette, and he discovered Johnny Canine actually at this event, and he asked him, "Hey, can we do business where you want to work 4 days a week down in Smoky Mountain?" He's like, yeah, sure, no problem. He's just anything for him to do to wrestling.
Right.
So, and Cornette asked him about Canine had a tattoo on his stomach that said "True to the Crew."
Yeah.
And he asked him about it. He said, "Oh, it's a jail tattoo. Everybody had to get it." He goes, "Well, how would they know if you got released that you got it?" "Oh, no, Jimmy. They know. Trust me. These different type of guys." So we know what he was.
Yeah, that's when Cornette kind of figured out, like, wait a minute, this guy's
he put two and two together,
whole different sides of him. He didn't know that stuff.
Yeah. So now Cornette, who was known for rebranding guys, renamed him Bruiser Bedlam, mainly after Dick the Bruiser, which I thought this name was kind of cool too. I mean, either one he could have worked with.
Yeah.
So they go on now. The next person they interview on this was Lance Storm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Lance Storm in Smoky Mountain Wrestling back in 1994 was one half of a tag team with Chris Jericho called the Thrill Seekers. So pretty much everybody went through Smoky Mountain too
at some point, yeah.
And also Smoky Mountain had at the time had the agreement with WWE because they would go back and forth.
Right. So
he was actually he was quickly booked into the main event against Bullet Bob Armstrong, which is a pretty that's a pretty good honor because he's Bruiser's coming off as the top heel and Bob Armstrong is the top guy in Smoky Mountain. There was actually a tag team. It was a handicap match. It was Bruiser and Cornette versus Armstrong, and despite the interference, I'm sorry, wrong match for the interference. I'm jumping the gun there. This match actually, it was a straight up honest match. Bruiser actually beats Armstrong. And the crowd went nuts because they didn't expect this to happen. Because, again, Armstrong's the top guy. So, in any event, Cornette also had filmed videos for him to show how tough he was. Because he's like, "Hey, Jimmy, I could break a bottle over my head." But before that video, they did one where he would actually punch nails through boards. I mean, Jesus Christ, this guy's nuts. With the beer bottle now, the next video they put out, he goes and tries it, nothing. Second one, nothing. Now by the third one, he's bleeding, and Cornette's like, hold on, I got this. Takes the bottle, soaks it in cold water.
Yeah, he gimmicked it.
Yeah, exactly. Because now this guy can't do it, and then all of a sudden, so yeah, he gimmicked the video. From the wrestling part of it now, they start going into the other part. They interviewed Bill Dunphy, who's a retired crime and justice journalist. They briefly talked to him, and then they were talking about how Johnny grew up borderline poor. Then they talked to Len Eisner, who was a retired detective staff sergeant of the entire Ontario Provincial Police. Tongue twister here up there. They said that he was acquaintances with several crime families they were talking about. He was a low-level enforcer. So his older brother was actually with the Red Devil biker gang, and he always dreamed about being in one. He started hanging out with Satan's Choice, biker gang. And sure enough, they opened up a chapter in Hamilton, Ontario, where he had a fast track to he was elected president. Now, they interviewed Mark Carlos, who's a former member of Satan's Choice, who said that was extremely rare that would happen that fast. So, he said he never knew anybody to come up that fast. So he made a lot of money illegally, but he loved wrestling. Tracy had talked about how he would make 20, 30 grand in a matter of 20 minutes, but he would travel to go to a wrestling show to make $200.
Right.
His
Yeah.
passion was wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So he left the gang now to go to back down to Smoky Mountain Wrestling. They stayed in what they called the Smoky Mountain Flop House. Oh Lord, he actually tells Jericho, "Hey, I'm going to room with you. I'm going to stay with you, and I'm going to do my share." He said, "Yeah." His idea of his share was doing the dishes.
Yeah.
And he goes, and Jericho's telling the story how he goes and pulls a plate out of the cupboard. It's got all this food and stuff all over it. So he looks at him as he's doing the dishes. His idea of doing the dishes was, okay, let me rinse it under the
Right. Yeah.
shake it off, and I'll put it back in the thing.
Right.
So Jericho's like, no, man, I'll take care of doing the dishes. He goes, well, what I could do. I said, I understand you want to. Okay, go take the garbage out.
Right. Yeah.
He's just like, oh my god, and I was laughing with this. I'm like, Jesus, pig. So from there, they talk about they go back to Smoky Mountain Wrestling. One of the matches for the highlight of his career was against the Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yep.
And not only does Savage go to Smoky Mountain to do this for Cornette, but he does him the favor as well, saying, I want to put this guy over. And Cornette's like, what? Now, I don't know. They didn't show the timeline of this, so I don't know if this was after he left WWE or this was during WWE.
It was during WWE. It was in '94.
The working partnership, yeah.
It was sometime in '94. Yeah.
So, despite Cornette getting involved and then Dory Funk getting involved, Bedlam actually gets the victory over Savage, and this is the highlight win of your career. Former two-time WWE champion, you got the pin on him, so it was good for them. Unfortunately, after this, Cornette around November or December 1994 had to let him go because they were bringing in the new thing of talent. But Johnny didn't care. He's like, yeah, all right, no problem, man. Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
They didn't really have a spot for him, but Cornette said he was really cool about it.
And it's unfortunate that he is, considering that Cornette loved working with him.
Right.
He was worried. Yeah. I don't understand the politics behind it, but this episode wasn't about that. So they even showed after he left Smoky Mountain Wrestling, he's doing the smaller shows. Did you catch that he lost to Marty Jannetty?
No, I didn't notice that.
I rewound it 3 times, and I said, "Wait a minute, that can't be." Oh my God, it is
Marty Jannetty.
An aerial, just a standing clothesline. He pins him with that. I'm moving on. The fact that he lost to Jannetty, you just beat Savage, but you lose to Marty Jannetty. I'm not touching that one anymore. So, in any event, he goes back to Ontario. By now, the cops are surveying the place, and he would actually go out and talk to them. First it was, "Oh, you're wasting the taxpayers' money." Then he would just conversate with them. "Yeah, I'm going to go pick up my bike. It's in the shop. I'll get it in the next couple of days." Blah blah blah. The cops would use surveillance and wiretaps to monitor their activities. And the one thing they said, he had a relationship with this guy Michael Dubé. I think I'm saying that right. According to Eisner, it was the most dangerous biker he'd ever met. And they went to the Solid Gold, I believe it was called. It was an adult place. And in there, you can't wear your colors. Johnny wasn't having that. He was like, no. He went in with them. He said he didn't care. There was a standoff between the staff and them. Eventually, the cops were called. Because they were so aggravated leaving the place, what do they decide to do? They want to bomb the place. Oh my God!
This is the beginning of the end right here.
This is really right here. Yeah. Somehow there was a change of plans, and a police station wound up being bombed. They left it in the alley, and it blew a hole in the wall. And there was, I guess, a whole bunch of miscommunication there. So
he didn't know. He didn't have knowledge of it. He thought it was going to be at the strip club.
Yeah, he didn't know he was manipulated.
Yeah, he didn't know.
And this was in December '96.
Yeah.
And sometime over the next several months through 1997, after the bombing, law enforcement prepared to take down Satan's Choice. They went into the clubhouse. There were barriers put up due to Johnny's not allowing them in. They blew a hole in the wall to get in, so they were going in by any means necessary. They came in with flashbangs, laser sights. They even showed up at his house. There was 50 SWAT team members coming to arrest him, so you knew they had him. The police arranged. Actually, they enjoyed this part. I'm like, whatever. The police actually arranged a crane and took down the Satan Choice logo off the building. He tells Len that it wasn't for this meant for the station. It was meant for the solid gold, which this is breaking the unwritten rule.
Right, right. You don't snitch no matter what.
Exactly. Dubé, he said, was the mastermind with the wiretap evidence and Johnny's statement. He was let go.
Yeah, because they had him on the phone, and on the phone they said that he was like confused when it initially happened.
Yeah,
because you could tell that he didn't have anything to do with them bombing the police headquarters.
exactly.
Because when they told him it happened, he was like confused, like what? Like, you could tell that, So they had him on that, and then he pretty much I guess he kind of confessed and
and admitted that it wasn't for this, it was for the other one, and
yeah,
who was behind it. Which you don't do that. In any event, the unwritten rule is you don't make any statement to the police or assist them in their investigations. They removed Johnny from the club and accused him of now being a rat. And I mean, he's just lucky, and in my opinion, that it wasn't worse.
I thought he was gonna get whacked. I mean,
that's what I thought. I thought when they talked about this, when they're at this point, I'm like, okay, this is.
I was like, yeah, he's getting whacked. Yeah,
because that's usually what happens. So, and the police would randomly pull Tracy over now at this point, and she's like, "What are you doing? I've done nothing wrong." They would tell her that her life is in danger and that there was a hit out on both him and her. So in January 2000, now he went to prison for the bombing of the station. She left with a 2-year-old, just with the clothes on her back, and went straight to Vancouver. She's like, "I've had it. I'm out of here. I'm done." He served 33 months for the bombing, which that's not bad. I really thought it could have been way longer than that. I mean, just shy under 3 years for that. Okay, that's Canada. Tracy had divorced him, and he was released in 2002. And Johnny had went to Vancouver to see her, and I guess old flames rekindled. She fell in his arms again at the airport. So
yeah, she just said how in love she was with him, that she took him back, and
despite everything, yeah. So after a few,
remember she even punched one of the bikers in the face that saw her, that said he was a rat.
Yeah, they said a rat. Yeah, she decked him.
Yeah, so
well, good for her, standing up for her man. Yeah. After only a few months in Vancouver, he's arrested for a double murder back in Ontario in 1998.
Right. Yeah, this was like 4 years prior.
Yeah, all of a sudden now we've got you.
Yeah.
For the murders of a lawyer and her husband, Lynn and Fred Gilbank.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually him and Andre Gravel was the other accomplice in this. They said Fred was shot twice with a shotgun, Lynn 4 times in her bed. And they were charged with the murder. They spent 20 months in jail for this.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2006, the murder charges were withdrawn. Gravel actually sued the police department, and he actually got a nice little settlement. Johnny never did it.
I guess he never sued. I don't know this case at all, but it kind of sounded like it didn't sound like they had a good case against them.
It sounded like they were reaching.
That's what it sounded like to me. But I have never looked up this case, so I don't want to make a mistake by saying that. But from watching this episode, you get the impression that these guys were just trying to convict somebody.
They had little to no evidence.
That's what it sounded like. But yeah,
So in any event, now in 2007, he goes back to Vancouver where Tracy remarries him. He's like, "What are we gonna do for money?" So he does a movie called The Reaper in 2009, and she's like, "Was he a good actor?"
No, but he tried.
Better than some of the stuff I've seen.
No.
Now, unfortunately, this is where old habits come into play, because he's at the gym now. He's talking to not only a member of the Hells Angels, but a member of the United Nations.
And not the United Nations.
Exactly. I was like, wait a minute, he's doing goodwill now.
Right. When she first said United Nations, I was like, United Nations, what?
Because I never heard of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not.
Well, we're not from British Columbia, so
exactly. So when I heard United Nations, I was like, wow.
Yeah, it was the UN. It was a gang of all different races, cultures, and they were called the UN. Yeah.
Yeah. So he got involved now with the UN gang. And it's funny because at one point now they're talking about he's got 100 pounds of weed in the house with the kids there. And he's talking about spraying it down with
Coca-Cola
and
some alcohol. Was it rum?
Whiskey and Coca-Cola.
Whiskey and Coca-Cola.
It would weigh more, they'd make more money. Yeah.
And she was helping him too, though.
Yeah, and meanwhile she's telling him we're gonna get killed for doing this.
Right.
Like what the hell? Whatever.
At least she's loyal.
Now, in 2008, they talked about briefly the UN had a botched hit. And in 2009, he was now charged with first-degree murder. He pled guilty for conspiracy to commit murder, spent 4 years of his sentence in jail until he was released to a halfway house in Toronto. Now, he was supposed to be on his way back to Vancouver to Tracy, but on February 21st, 2017, he died at the age of 53. The cause of death, they said, was subject of speculation.
Yeah, they initially said heart attack, right?
Yeah, they did use that word. But then they said the lifestyle
might have led to the heart attack. But then they said something about there was suspicion somebody gave him a hot dose.
Yeah.
Of drugs, and that's what caused the heart attack. I don't know. Who knows?
There's no telling.
I like how they compared him to Al Capone.
Yeah, I love that
this episode. Yeah.
I'm like, you guys sure about that?
Yeah, I don't know about Al Capone, but
yeah,
because they initially compare him to Al Capone at the bar, like when he's gonna go into the bar, how he just transformed. He went from a wrestler to Al Capone personality. He got intoxicated with the power and everything, and then later on, they're talking about that news headline. I think it said that something to the effect of that that natural causes did what law enforcement couldn't.
Yeah.
And then his friend was like, he would have loved that if he was able to see that headline. He would have.
Exactly.
Yeah. So his wife was broken up about it. Obviously, she didn't know that was the last time she was going to see him was when he got locked up.
Yeah.
So I mean, who knows what happened to the guy?
This is true. I mean, watching this episode, I expected it a lot sooner with everything that had.
Yeah, because I didn't know his story, so I was like,
not a lot of people I think are familiar with them. I mean, I knew. The names was familiar as watching wrestling as a kid, as the jobber. I did remember the name in the wrestling, but as far as all this other stuff, I don't know.
Yeah, and Lance Storm seemed really upset. You could tell Lance Storm was friends with him and cared about him. Yeah, and even those guys were saying that the thing about the homicide thing, they didn't believe that he had anything to do with the murder. Like, he did other stuff, but like they didn't think like. But then again, you never really know. But I mean.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I thought it was a good episode. It was interesting. It wasn't a boring episode. Like, it was really interesting.
It was something out of the ordinary that we would see it on.
Yeah. So next week is what Luna, right?
Luna Vachon.
Yeah.
I'm eager to see this one because
that should be interesting.
Yeah, she was around in the Attitude Era, so you definitely wrestling fans know who she is.
Mm-hmm.
The schizophrenia thing
even
when they
mentioned
that,
in the preview, she was even around before the Attitude Era.
1990, the Tonka and all that stuff.
And then Gangrel's going to be in it because her and Gangrel were together.
Yep.
So,
and when they said the word schizophrenia, I'm like, oh, this is gonna explain a lot.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and again, she's another one. Unfortunately, died way too young, way before her time. So that's going to be a good episode.
Yeah. All right. Well, you guys let us know what you think about this episode, and make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys soon.
Take care.